but I just this is just to understand the Rashi in Shabbat, in Masechet Berachot, when we talk about Birkat Hamam. Sometimes, instead of identifying the hours, what they do is, if you would imagine you have 24 hours in a day, right? What they do, and then you have 7 days a week. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right? And then you pull that in, you have 168 hours. The way the Gemara in Masechet Berachot, I don't know why, identifies the hours, is they take the 7 planets that they understood, and the 7 planets are Shatsan, Ankal, Shabbatai, Tzedek, Ma'adim, Hama, Noga, Kokav, Levana. Okay? We'll go backward. This Levana being the closest, they considered it again the Earth in the center and 7 planets all around it. The moon, Venus, Mercury, the Sun, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. So those are the 7 planets that the ancients thought that surrounded it. So what they did,
how they were able to see those planets without?
You could see them within a year.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So what they basically did was, they started from Sunday 6 p.m., which is the beginning of the week, and they called the first hour Shabbatai. Then they called the second hour Sedek. Then they called Ma'adim, Hama, Noga, and Kochav, Levana. And then they started again. And they went Shabbatai, Sedek, and that's how they did it. And you would go through the whole thing 24 times, because there's 7 of them, right? And in a whole day, the next day you would start somewhere in the middle. Okay? The next day, because you go 7, 7, 7, so you did 21, and then you would go Shabbatai, Sedek, Madim, and then you would start Hama, Noga, Kochav, Levana, and you go all over it, and when the Gemara says that the time you make Birkat Levana, Birkat Hama, is when the sun is at its time at Sha'at Noga, all they're saying is Wednesday night, 6 p.m. That's all they're saying. And there's a very lengthy Rashi just telling you this whole thing. And it sounds almost excruciating. Yeah, I think it's Noga, I'm pretty sure. It's so excruciatingly confusing. I think it's Noga, but check the Gemara, because
Well, which of these correspond to the days?
It doesn't have no correspondence, it's just arbitrary. They're just assigning...
Go in a 7-hour cycle.
But how do they do it? They must do it in a set way.
Like the way I just told you.
So Shabbatai is Sunday?
Yeah, that's what I just told you. I just don't remember. Yeah, I'll read you the Gemara, by the way. I just wanted you to understand this Gemara, because what happens is... We don't have any... Oh, okay. No, I thought you were waiting for me. What happens is it gets a little confusing, and people think there's something astronomical going on in the Gemara, because it's talking about planets. And it's not. It's just an arbitrary way. And like I said, this has nothing to do with what we're doing. But because I mentioned the cycle and Birkat Hamam, I wanted to. You should understand the lashon of the Gemara. I'll read it to you. I'll read it to you, so you really. It's not. It shouldn't be frightening at all. It's Masechet Berachot, where Birkat Hamam is.
It's on 6 p.m., right? Sunday 6 p.m.
הרואה חמה בתקופתה, לבנה בגבורתה וכוכבים שאותו מזות כסלם, אומר ברוך השם מעשה בראשית. ואם התהווה, אמר רבי כל כף חד שנין, you should know why now it's 28 hours, והדר מחזור ונפת תקופת ניסן בשבתאי, I'm sorry, I said no, get שבתאי. Meaning,
oh, Sunday.
No, so it's here Shabbatai, but okay, no, my mistake. Because you don't start Sunday from home. You do. Okay, so I'm reading to you Rashi. שם שעה ראשונה של ליל ד' שבאותה שעה נתלו אורות ושבע שעות הן וחוזרות חלילה שצם חנקה. So I apologize. I start on Wednesday. I'm sorry.
So Shabbatai is Wednesday?
Yeah.
Wednesdays.
And then you go down like that. Okay? Says Rashi.
Shabbatai is Wednesday
At nightfall, 6
p.m.
Yeah.
So it's
שם
Tuesday.
שעה ראשונה של ליל ד' שבאותה שעה נתלו המאורות.
Thursday.
ושבע, just listen, ושבע שעות הן וחוזרות חלילה, שצם חנקה, שבתאי צדק, מאדים, חמה, נוגה, כוכב, לבנה. תמצא בהיקף סדרן של עולם סימני שעות. תחילת הלילות קצ'נס חלם. Because if you go through it, you know, if I start this and I go all around, what's going to happen is, this is going to wind up starting at Kochav. This is going to say Tzedek. This is going to be Noga. Kashnas Hama. Kashnas Halam Levana. Ma'adim. That's how it's going to work. Just happens to be that way. And like I said, it'll just... תמצא בהיקף סדר של עולם סימני שעות תחילת ליל קשנץ חלם, מוצאי שבת כוכב, תחילת ליל בית צדק, תחילת ליל ג' נוגה, תחילת ליל רביעי שבתאי, תחילת ליל חמישי חמה, תחילת ליל שישי לבנה, תחילת ליל שבת מאדים. בסדר תחילת הימים, כעלות השחר, חלם קשנץ. And עלות השחר, it's going to be that.
So Shabbatai is not Wednesday.
It's Tuesday night.
Beginning of Wednesday, Tuesday night, 6 p.m.
Tuesday night, 6 p.m.
It's the beginning
Which
of
is Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Beginning of Wednesday. Right? And it just keeps going. So when it says this, all it is arbitrarily assigning planets to hours. You don't have to get any more scared of it than that. That's all it's doing. There's nothing, and it just happens to be that we use. Why? Because they just happen to do. That's how they happen to. It's really only notations. So that's all the Gemara means. I just felt I would explain it to you, so that when you see Rashi and you start seeing all these things, you're going to know what you're talking about, and everyone skips the Rashi. Everyone winds up skipping that Rashi because it's just. What is it talking about? I know every 20 years it comes back, and I know why. That's all that happens there, and there's nothing more. Okay.
The next Tikufah takes the next planet's name, or the next hour, meaning
The next
7,
hour.
7 p.m. to 7 p.m.
Okay. All right. I just made some sheets here with some basic information to introduce the Tkufot. What I want to try to finish tonight is my introduction to the Tkufot. You could basically, there's just a lot of numbers here that you could have figured out on your own, but I put them there for you, and we'll go over these. All right. Well, the Gemara, by the way, was clear. Was that pretty clear? Yeah. It just sometimes you just decode a Gemara and then it makes so much sense, and before you do that, you get all scared and.
I don't understand one thing. When you say Wednesday night at 6 p.m., that's really Thursday, or that's really Tuesday?
Tuesday night, 6 p.m. is
Wednesday. Gotcha.
Okay. Now, I gave you some basic info on you. I don't need this anymore.
What's the Rega again?
A Rega is a 76th of a head. Okay.
So what do we do about these 2 extra halakim for every single 642 halakim instead of 640? So how do we? Yeah, we didn't take that into account.
What is 640? Why is 640?
I'm saying 640 would be half of 10. Oh, I know what we have to make.
No,
Wait, so where do we get 642 from?
we'll see clearly. But relax, I'll go through everything.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, okay, that number, oh, we'll get to there, no, don't worry about that number. Okay. The year, let's see, we know the year consists of 12 mazalot. Right? What is a mazal? Mazal is, nothing astrological about a mazal. All mazal is, and then of course it eventually turns into astrological things. But a mazal is a simple astronomical thing that the ancients used to really talk about or identify the 12 months of the year. We know, as I mentioned last time, that the reason there are seasons is because of the tilt of the earth on its axis. Right? Now the sun travels, or the direct impact of the sun travels on what's called an ecliptic. The ecliptic is very simple. Because of the tilt of the earth on the axis, right? So, at the tilt of the earth on its axis, as the sun goes through, we start at spring, basically, the earth is, let's say, straight. And the sun is hitting directly on the equator. As we go for the month of, right, so the sun, so let's just talk about here. Right, let's say this is the sun. And this is the earth. So the earth, you with me? So the earth is, let's say, here, right? Now, it travels and it goes to spring. As it travels, based on the tilt of the earth on the axis, it's tilted towards this way. And the direct light of the sun, and you'll see, it doesn't make any difference as how far the earth and the sun are, or the heat. Like I told you, it's much closer in spring and fall than it is in summer. But it's because of the tilt of the earth on its axis. At which point the sun rays, again, so it's moving, and because of its tilt, it moves, and at this point, the sun's rays are hitting directly more north, at 23.5 degrees north, where it used to hit 0 at the equator, it's now hitting. So therefore, the people of the north are getting much hotter times, because the direct ray is hitting 23.5 degrees north. So the new equator, so to speak, is the Tropic of Cancer. Why do we call it the Tropic of Cancer? Because the mazal for June 21st is Cancer. And so when it hits there, that's called the Tropic of Cancer. At which point, it goes around another 3 months, and it hits the way it was at March 21st and September 21st, and it hits directly the equator for another equinox. At which point then it goes and it hits 23.5, and it hits more than, and for us it's pretty cold, and for them down there it's pretty hot, and then it goes back to here. And that's the ecliptic. Now this path, if we would imagine, as the ancients imagined, that the sun was moving and the earth was standing. So the earth would go, so the sun would travel at the equator, up, down, down, up, and then start all over again. Right? That's the path. That path, that belt, is called the ecliptic. Okay? That's how it travels. Now, what happens is, as the sun travels, there are different groups of stars that become, at any point, the different, as the Earth spins throughout the day, different stars become available at different positions from the Earth. But there are some stars that never become visible. Right? There is a group of stars, and if we break it up into 12, each one being representing 2 hours of a 24-hour day, there is one of those that never becomes visible because they are hidden by the sun's light. That group of stars, we take that group of stars, and we want to identify that cluster of stars. So how did the ancients identify the cluster of stars? By the shape that it looked like. by the shape that it seems to form. So, Aries looked like a ram, so they called it Mazal Tle. Right? So they called it Mazal Tle, because it looked like a ram. That's all that it was. And so the month of Nisan is the month of the Mazal of Tle. Because that's the Mazal that we are in. We are in that Mazal because we consider the sun is in it. Okay, that's why we're in Tle, because the sun is in that Mazal. You understand? Ironically, it's the one you don't see.
Because it's not visible.
Right, because right. So and the month before that we're in Dagim. Why are we in Dagim? Because it looks like a fish, and the stars that are hidden by the sun look like a fish. So we're in Dagim. In other words, they are hidden all day. All the other ones have visible for about 2 hours a day. So that's what we call a mazal. That's all it is. Nothing more, nothing less. That's a mazal. Now.
Doing Mazal Talei will never find the Talei in the sky.
Right. Now, it's not exactly true, ironically, because there's another problem with this, which is, and this is not so relevant to what we're talking about, but the ancients did realize that there was, as this is happening, remember, there were 9 spheres. There's the 7 planets, okay? There's the 8th one with all the kochavim, and there's the 9th one, which is the whole universe sphere. Happens to be that the ancients noticed, and I don't want to get into how they were right and what they noticed, but they of course had the wrong theory, that there is seeming a backward motion of the entire universe sphere at a very slow pace. But over the time from creation till today, or since we started counting the mazalot, we seem to have gone a little bit backwards. So in reality, what we'll see Tle in Nisan. We won't see it in Adar, which is supposed to be Pisces. In other words, it hasn't been perfect. In fact, when we grew up, this is young for you, but there was a song, by this. This is the dawning of the age of Aquarius. Anyone know what the pshat of that song is? It's simple. When Aries goes so back that it goes back through Pisces and hits Aquarius, because of the backward motion, the universe will just explode. And so we are at the dawning of, I don't know, it's just a good thing. We are at the dawning of the age. Are you asking me something? Because they were on pop when they made that song. I don't know.
You Doresh the song, are we supposed to understand?
I'm just explaining to you what it meant. So it's not exactly true that you will look up and not see the Aries. You might, because of that regression. But that's the way it's supposed to be. Okay? That's a mazal. There are 12 mazalot. And there are 4 tkufot. Right? So the 4 tkufot happened during Nisan, Tammuz, Tishrei, and Tebet. Tkufat Nisan is the spring equinox. Tkufat Tammuz is the summer solstice. Tkufat Tishrei is the fall equinox. Tkufat Tebet is the winter solstice. Right? Those are the 4 tkufot. Also represented at 4 of those 12 mazalot. So Nisan is Tle. I never remember these things, right? Nisan is Tle. I don't remember how they all go. I don't remember all the mazalot in order. Right, Tle, then Shod, Te'omim, Sutton. Sutton is Tammuz, tropic of Cancer.
Tebet is B.
Tle, Shod, Te'omim. Yeah, you could get this in any book. I mean, it's not. You don't have to worry about it now. I'm just telling you.
Nisan is Aviv, right?
Yeah.
And Tammuz is what?
Summer.
Kaid. And Tishrei is what?
Fall. And then there's winter. Right?
What do they mean when they said Satan or Cancer? What did they
It just looks like a
Crap.
So Nisan is
crab.
Talei.
Crab.
Nisan is Talei and Tammuz is what?
Huh? No, a crab is a different one.
Satan is no. Akab is Scorpio.
Nisan is Talei
Yes,
and Tammuz
It's
is
November.
Yeah.
Nisan is Talei, Tammuz is what?
Nisan is Tle, Tammuz is Satan. Tishrei is Moznaim, and Tevet is Gedi. But I'll go through all 12 of them if you want.
Just go to
Fleh, Shor, Te'omim, Sartan, don't write it all down. Sartan, Aryeh, Betula, Moznaim, Akrav, Keshet, Gedi, Deli, Dagim. Right? So don't worry about that now. I'm just telling you what they are. Okay?
They don't
So
matter.
every tkufa
Start.
lasts 3 mazalot, correct? Which means 3 months. Okay? Every mazal is about a month. Okay? A month on the solar year. Even though we say Nisan is Tle, obviously it's not. Sometimes it fluctuates because these.
Oh, yeah, I don't
Because
understand.
it's let's say March 21st. Generally
This is
Nisan.
also-
What?
This is also here.
Yeah. Everything now is so. So when I say Nisan, I mean about approximately. Now the Shnat Hama Lefi Shmuel is 365 days 6 hours. Lefi Rabada, this is what I told you last time. 365 days 5 hours 997 halakim and 48 regaim. How did Rabada get to that number? He got to do it again backwards. He wanted to make the 19-year cycle perfect. So he altered the math to fit in. So he basically made 235 lunar cycles equal 19 solar cycles. It happens to be, lucky enough, he got more accurate than Shmuel. That's a pretty accurate number. It's closer to the real number, right? The real number, it's, again, if Shmuel is off about 10.5 minutes, Rabada is off a little under 6 minutes.
How many said that Maran holds like Shmuel and Ravada?
I never said
No? Well, that he brought it, Maran doesn't deal with Ravada at all, you said, right?
that. No. This is not a Maran Mahlokit at all. There's no Maran Ramah here. This is a mention of the Talmud. We actually use the different Tkufot for different things.
Okay.
We use both. Midat Kufa, the time of a season, you just divide that previous number into 4, okay? And that means that Lefi Shmuel, every Tkufa is 91 days, 7.5 hours. And Lefi Rabada, every Tkufa is 91 days, 7 hours, 519 halakim, and 31 regaim. You'll see, obviously, dealing with Shmuel has its pluses and ease when you're trying to figure out. If you had to try and make that chart
Today's calendar.
for Rav Ada, you'd shoot yourself, right?
Today's calendar.
You can't make that chart, right? And by the way, obviously, you know, and how long would it take, by the way, to make this chart to get back to the exact same spot where you started? It would not take 28 years. It may take thousands, right? I don't know, but it would take a long time. You would never make Birkat HaHamam, right? Huh? Again, Shmuel clearly understood his number was a rounded number, right?
He said because he wants to
Why do you
make
keep
that.
saying that?
Because he did the 19
Because
years
even the
before.
ancients seem to have been aware of it, and Shmuel certainly was aware of what the ancients were aware of. Right. So, yeah, could be. I told you, there are those who don't make Birkat HaHamah with Shem Malchut. Because of this.
Well, it's like Safik B'Lachol between Amoraim.
Right. And also because they know that
It's
it's
like
not
the
there.
between reality and...
Oh, reality.
So they just say Baruch Oseh Maaseh B'Reshit. But we do.
Well, we addressed that. We said this is the beracha. It's like a sheva.
Yeah. All right. The difference per tkufa from, and you could, again, this is all myth, you could just do this on your own, but I just did it. That the difference between Shmuel and Rav Ada is what? 20 halakim and 45 regaim. Right? Just take a look. 7.5 hours. So 7 hours and a half hours, how many halakim? 540, right? So 540 minus 519 and 31 regaim. So 540 is like 539 and 76, right? So it's 20 halakim and 45 regaim. That's the difference in per tkufa. Now for the year,
It's 83 halakim. For the year.
What?
It's an 83 halakim difference per year.
Yeah, just take the number I
Plus
gave you per
40.
tkufa, multiply it by 4, and then you're right.
48 regaim.
Yeah, because 45 regaim, not exactly 83, right?
82 and 48 regaim.
Yeah.
82 halakim,
Yeah, something
40,
like that.
48.
Yeah. So I didn't put that number. I put for tkufa. Now, the length of 3 Hochei Levana, which is computed by multiplying, and there's a reason I did this. There's a reason I did all of this. The reason I did all this, you're going to see as we try and figure out tkufot, you're going to need all these numbers.
You're home alone.
Katiab Tashsag by 3. Well, books do it for me. To be meir that some of these for me, right? But yeah, it's so nice to do. Katiab Tashsag by 3 is Pehet Yamim Yud Del Shaot Resh Yud Tet Halakim. You want to do it? Test me that. No, do it. Do it. You can do it. Katiab Tashsag times 3. You can just do it. Anyone has a calculator?
I don't get the Pechet Yamim thing.
Well, just do it. Then do it
You mean
yourself.
7 days, not 28. My Kavana 28.
Where's 28? I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm sorry.
What are you doing? Okay, Katiab Tashsag by 3.
Right.
This was fun. I sleep.
88, 14, 468.
You got 219.
No.
I have an error.
Multiply.
Hey, I did 876 times 3 wrong.
No, 793 times 3. Tashsag. Where'd you get 876?
I'm thinking of okay, fine, whatever.
Come on. Katiab Tashsag was the first thing I told
So 79 times 3 makes, so I just did
you. 793 times
I
3.
know I did 79 times 3 extra.
88,
237 minus 240. 219.
Alright, so good. So the length of 3 lunar months, which is the general length of as close as we get as a tkufa, would be that. Now, there is therefore, anyone could obviously see, ben l'Shmuel, ben l'Ravada, a yitaron for every season over 3 lunar months. One tkufa is longer than 3 lunar months. Does everyone see that?
2.5 days.
Correct. So instead of saying 2.5 days, I gave you exactly the amount. Lefi Shmuel, it's 2 days, 17 hours, and 321 halakim. And you can remember that by Biz Shacha. And
That's complicated.
And-
Shin is
yeah, so this is trickier because the Biz Shala and the Biz Shacha is shorter than the Biz Shacha.
well, Shaka is all halakim, and
Right.
Shala is.
Correct. Yeah, good. Yeah, but it's just around. The Rav Ada, the difference between the 3 Hochei Levana and his tkufa is obviously a little shorter. So it's 2 days, 17 hours, 300 halakim, halakim I should have wrote, sorry, typo, and 31 regaim for Biz Shala, but the Lamed Aleph in Rav Ada is not halakim, is regaim. So it's just remember, okay? Now, okay?
Just remember.
We good. Those numbers are important because we're going to use these numbers. We're coming back to these numbers and using them, and I'll tell you what we're going to do theoretically, and we're not going to actually do it today. We're going to do it next week. I will tell you theoretically what we're going to do with these numbers. Then, I wrote for you again, the Mahzor Katan is 235 lunar cycles. 235 lunar months makes a Mahzor Katan. Right? That's obvious to do it because 7 times 13, because you have 13 months, and 12 months. So 144 right? And 7 times 13 is 91. 144 and 91 is 235. Okay? Now, if I take 76 tkufot, which are the amount of tkufot in a mahzur katan, and I take, guys, I take 76 tkufot.
How do you figure that's the amount of its, if it only comes out to 228?
76 times 3.
It's 228.
Okay, and they're talking about solar months then. Remember, they're bigger. Every solar month.
That's right.
Okay? 76 tkufot in a mahzur katan, right? And it's simple. That's how many years in a mahzur katan? 19. How many tkufot per year? 4. So 19 times 4 is 76. Okay? So 76 tkufot in a mahzur katan. How, if I multiply, this is what I would do. I'm not telling you to do this, but this is, if I multiply the length of the tkufa by 76.
Isn't it Mahzur Gadol?
No,
No,
Mahzur
Mahzur
Gadol
Katan.
is 28 years. 28 years, you have more than 76 tkufot. I said 76, you're right, I was wrong. I said 76 tkufot, and when you were dealing with a Mahzur Gadol, that's wrong. Because it's 28 times 4, it's about 112. 112. And now I am right. And you do cover every potential hour and a half. You do cover every potential hour and a half. Not every hour, but every hour and a half in the week when you get, it will be a tkufa. Because it's simple. 112 times 1.5 will be 168. So every hour and a half will be a tkufa during the week. Yeah, okay, I know I got messed up for a while. Okay. You always get messed up. You forget you always confuse the numbers no matter how many times you go over it, but you just try and get it straight. There's 76 tkufot in a mahzur katan. If I compute 76 tkufot, how much more is that than 235 Hodshei Levana? So, 76, let's start with Shemuel, times 91 and 7 times 91 days, 7.5 hours on one side, and 235 times Katiab Tassad on the other side. Shmuel, the Tkufa, will be 1 hour, 485 halakim, larger than the 235 Levana. You with me?
So over
Come on,
28
still recording.
years.
Who's moving this? There's more, where moving this? I don't know who leads.
The
The
whatever.
Tkufot are longer than
Right, then.
the Hodshei Levana.
We're cutting the 50-foot short.
They're every year the Tkufot extend 1 hour, 485 halakim later
Right.
than its previous 19 years ago.
So we're moving fast. The Levana guys.
Levana, guys, is behind the sun. The sun, the 235 halak. Okay,
They're ahead of this.
if they're at the same, no. If we say that at one point, which we're they're at the same moment, then at the 19 years later, the tkufa will be 1 hour and 485 halakim after the same mulad.
So
In other words, if mulad Nisan,
guys, they have a shorter.
forget, don't use we. I have no idea what you're talking about. If the mulad of Nisan and the tkufa of Nisan are at the same time, 19 years later, the tkufa of Nisan will be 1 hour, 485 halakim after the mulad of Nisan.
So does that mean
Okay.
that each year it moves 2 minutes? That we
No, each year moves much more. Because you're adding you're adding extra months, and therefore
The truth
you
is
have a
that's
12-month, a 13-month. That 235 is not divisible
really
into 19.
Right, 'cause it depends on
Some
what
are
year
12,
you
some
are.
are 13. Some are they going to advance more. Sometimes it's going to go
Right.
backwards.
Right.
It's going to fluctuate back and
So you have to
forth.
get what it is on the Mahzor Katan, but after that
And
is.
that's why,
Right.
I don't-
Well, there are other numbers that be important. Now, two other important numbers. Now according to Rav Ada,
So after 18 mahzurim, you have to add 1 day?
well, right, just about.
It's an
Not
hour and a half
having-
approximately.
do the.
It's an hour and, 26 minutes.
divided by 4.
So every
18
18
mahzurim.
mahzurim, you have to add 1 day.
Every 300-400 years. Right. Now, yeah. And so if we used, and that's the problem with using the Shmuel. That's why we don't use the Shmuel for the holidays, because the Shmuel Tkufa would take us too far. Right? That difference will come back to haunt us if we used it. And the fact that we don't use it except for very few things, we don't pay attention to that regression. But you're right, Barech Aleinu will get later and does get later every
Every 400, every hundreds of years we're talking about that.
it gets later. Yeah.
An hour and a half every 19.
Right. So, according to Rav Ada, the 19-year cycle is perfect, and therefore there
Because you
is
work
no
the number.
Yitaron. Every 19
If
years,
you work the number to make it perfect.
yeah, okay, right. Every 19 years, it comes the Molad of Nisan and the Tkufa of Nisan come back to the same thing. So the 19-year cycle and the 76 Tkufot are always the same vis-a-vis the Molad. In other words, the relationship between Tkufa and Molad repeat itself exactly every 19 years. So according to Rav Ada, once I have that relationship of Tkufa and Molad for 19 years, I have it for eternity. Because it's a perfect circle.
So what did we discount? Which chart did we discount? We said-
Not every year, every 19 years would be the same. Right?
And in the 19 years in between, the
You wouldn't be able to make the graph, you wouldn't be able to make
No.
the table that we made.
Tkufa and the Molad is actually never equal. Almost, I don't think it ever happens in that section. We're going to try and figure out now. There's a reason for that. And that brings me to the next two numbers. And don't ask me why. But the first Tkufa of Nisan, according to Shmuel, was 7 days, 9 hours, and 642 halakim before the Molad that year. That's when the Tkufa came.
Which is Baharab,
No, Molad, Baharad's a Molad, not a Tkufa.
as you said, before the Molad. I'm saying.
Right, but we're
Before.
talking now, the first Tkufa is Tkufa of Nisan. Baharad was a Molad of Tishrei in year 1. We have to go back to the Tkufa of Nisan. So the first Tkufa of Nisan was 7 days, 9 hours, 642 halakim before the Molad of Nisan in the year of creation. According to Rav Ada, it's the same, but you take out that week. According to Rav Ada, it's 9 hours. The first Tkufa was 9 hours, 642 halakim before the Molad of the Levana. Now, it should be obvious that every 19 years, the first Tkufa of every Mahzor Katan will be, according to Rav Ada, 9 hours and 642 halakim before the Molad of that Nisan. Right? Because it's going to become to the exact point. There's no Yitaron, there's no... Whereas according to Shmuel, it's going to, at every Mahzor, you're going to have to add
7
that
days.
1 hour, 485 halakim to that. Okay? And of course, what's obvious now is the difference between Shmuel and Rav Ada in the Tkufa of the Yetzirah is 7 days, 7 for a whole week. These numbers, really, we're going to use them, but I just wanted you to have them. So, someone said, what, you had nothing to do today? I had fun with it. Now, what we're going to do, like I mentioned to you, what we're going to do is, the next thing we're really going to do is we're going to focus on the Tkufa of Rav Ada. And we're going to try and find out a few things. We're going to try and see if we can figure out the Tkufa of Rav Ada, when it will be. So we're going to do, the first thing we're going to do is what's called the Ihora Tkufa. We're going to use a lot of these numbers to find out on any given Tkufa how long it was after its corresponding molad. We're going to use a lot of these figures to figure that out. Okay? Once I do that, right, that's not going to help me to figure out the date of the month of that tkufa. I just know vis-a-vis the molad, but the molad, as we know, may not have been Rosh Chodesh. So we're going to use that ihod to find for me two things. The next thing we're going to do is find for me what day of the week that was for Rav Ada. Now you can't use your Shmuel chart if the Shmuel's obvious, but now we don't know. So to find out exactly the day of the week, without the date of the month, all I'll do is simply add my Ihora Tkufa to the Molad, subtract the weeks, and I'll know what day of the week it was. But that's not going to tell me what date of the month it was. In order to do that, it's a little more complicated. What I'm going to need to know is figure out how, in other words, I'm going to figure out the molad, then I'm going to also have to figure out when Rosh Chodesh of that month was, which we already know how to do, right? Right? We already know how to do that. We're going to use that, our ability to figure out Rosh Chodesh on that month. Find out when Rosh Chodesh was vis-a-vis the molad, account for that difference, and then add back all of that. We're not going to take all the weeks anymore. We're going to put the weeks back. Put back all the weeks, and you use that number and find the actual date. Now there are times, it should be obvious, where the tkufa will be before the molad. So what you could do, what we would normally think to do, is then just subtract. But what the rabbis like to do is take a whole month off and then add it to the last month. In other words, add it to the last month's molad instead of subtracting it from the next month's molad. That's all they'll do.
So that means you figure out less.
Instead of subtracting it from tkufa from molad nisan, so add it to molad adar. All right, and so then right. Okay. We'll be doing this next week. We'll be doing a little more math. So again, it's going to build. Remember the things we need to know. We need to be able to figure out molad because obviously that's going to be the basis that we start. We're going to need to figure out Rosh Chodesh also to do that, and then we're going to be able to actually figure out, according to Rav Ada, the dates of the day and dates of the tkufa for any given time. Once that's going to take me probably next week. I'll be doing that. I don't think it'll. Then, when I'm done with that, I'm going to do the same exact thing with Shmuel. The math is going to be a little bit trickier because even though it seems cleaner, it's trickier vis-a-vis the molad because there's no perfect cycle. There's no perfect 19-year cycle. So I'm always going to have to figure in that another thing, that 1 hour 485 halakim. And, okay, what will be easier is to find the day of the week for Shmuel, because we already know you already figured out every potential one. So you just got to figure out where, you already know the day of the week. I just have to know what year we are in a Mahzor Katan, Mahzor Gadol, so I don't need to figure out the day of the week. Because you did it. Just now I just have to just divide that into 28 and figure out the tkufa, and you're done. But the date might be a little trickier than it will be for Rav Adah. We'll do that. And then after we do that, we're going to use that knowledge, as I mentioned, to go and do something else, and that is to account for English and Hebrew dates and make them and figure out how we do
But
that.
it has nothing to do with that in meaning that one.
Well, the only thing is, if you need to know when the tkufa is. Now, the tkufa has halakhic ramifications. Because the tkufa of Nisan, if you're sitting in the Beit Din Yerushalayim, and you're Rabban Gamliel, and you want to know, should this year be Shana Me'uberet or not, you have to figure out when the tkufa is. Why is it important to figure out when the tkufa is? Because you've got to make sure that tkufa is going to come before Pesach.
But now, Afi Haibbur, Afi Haibbur, we already did it with the 19 years. Don't really do Afi Haibbur.
Right. In other words, we already have, because since we're going by Rav Adah, so the 7 years everything, right. The 7 years every.
Now, if they include
Yeah.
if they include between
For us, the Rav Adah is more. 1 second. For us, the Rav Adah is more just academic. There's no enough coming now because we already know that we already have the 19-year cycle with Gua Hadza in it, so it's just academic. Shmuel will have enough coming now. Like I said, just the only nafkamina that you would need to know is you want to know when to make Barei Chalim. Right? Because you already know every 28 years, and again, when to make what date to make Birkat Hama. You need to know those two things. So that's some nafkamina for Shmuel's calendar. But again, the Tkufot have much less what we'll call usage than the Molad and all the other things that we did until now. Which is why your calendar was almost complete already. And we're only halfway into the thing. Because now. Again, the one great benefit is when we figure out Tkufat Shmuel, which is exactly equal to the Julian calendar, we'll be able to actually connect a Hebrew date to a Julian date. And once we connect the Hebrew date to a Julian date, we can then connect the Hebrew date to a Gregorian date, because there's an easy way to, because it's just, there's an easy way to do that.
why doesn't Rav Adah have then a fixed molad schedule as well?
The length of the Tkufot is irrelevant to the Molad. The
But how can you say
Molad,
that every single, there's always there's a fixed amount
because
of
the
time,
Molad
there's
doesn't
always-
repeat itself every 19 years. The Tkufa repeats itself, the Tkufa doesn't repeat itself every 19 years.
Right.
The Tkufa repeats itself relevant to that Molad every 19 years. But the Molad's fluctuating and the Tkufa is fluctuating with it. The only thing that comes perfect after 19 years is that the Tkufa and the Molad are
Different,
the same difference between them. But as the Molad will fluctuate, because there is no cycle of Molad. The Katyab Tassak never equalizes itself out, ever. It never repeats back. It will take, there was a mathematician who did this, the book I should, it will take, there will be, I shouldn't say that, after about, I think he did it potentially, you figured it out, so it's a simple mathematical equation. After about, it will repeat, all the Molad will repeat themselves after about 184,000 years. They will wind up repeating themselves. So there is a repetition, but certainly,
No, I just don't conceptually, if one could, if they could detect how it's always going to be relative to the molad, let's say.
no, the
changes
Tkufa will come on the Molad. When the Molad comes, it's going to be changed, and the Tkufa will change with it.
Okay, but then how it'll always be 9 Sha'ot and 64 Halakim.
Because that's the difference between the Tkufa and the Molad. And the Tkufa, every 19 years, will fall on that exact, will come back to the exact same difference between that. The only thing that repeats itself in the 19-year cycle is the difference between the Molad and the Tkufa. But as the Molad could be a different day,
It could be.
so the Molad could be, one time it could be Kaf Het Adar, next to Kaf Bet Nisan, as you saw, it can fluctuate. The Tkufa will move with it. That's all that's happening. But there is no perfect cycle of 19. The 19 years doesn't mean Molad's going to repeat or Tkufa. The only perfect cycle that you have is the 28 years of Shmuel. Because that's a point where the Tufot will always hit at the same point that they hit 28 years earlier. But again, not vis-a-vis the Molad.
So now we should finish out, try to make it to 112 Tikufot?
Yes, it will be 112. It's 28 years, it's 112 to
I'm
28
saying
times
you want us
4,
to finish it?
Yeah. Finish it, and, finish it.
And then put the photocopy.
Yeah, just have it. Should I copy for you?
Check your work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Thanks.
No, you have to finish it.
Yeah, well, you don't get it.
This is.
I mean,